almost 45,000.
December 15th, 2023, 4:47 a.m. Port Newark Container Terminal, New Jersey. Federal agents surrounded container MSQ 4429817 as it rolled off the MSC Guyane, fresh from Buenaventura, Colombia. The manifest declared automotive parts. Standard screening protocol. Routine inspection. The K9 unit hit on the container within 90 seconds. What they found inside would unravel the most sophisticated narcotics operation ever orchestrated by an officer of the court. 8,900 pounds of cocaine. Street value, $410 million. And the shipping documents traced directly to a law office in Manhattan's financial district, where clients trusted their attorney to navigate the complexities of American immigration law. The investigation begins. The Drug Enforcement Administration had been tracking irregular shipping patterns for 11 months. Container shipments originating from South American ports, routed through Caribbean transshipment points, arriving at East Coast terminals with falsified cargo documentation. The paper trails dissolved into corporate shells. The money vanished into international wire networks. The drugs moved through established distribution channels before investigators could identify the organizational hierarchy. But this container was different. The shipping company listed on the customs declaration existed. It maintained a legitimate business address. It filed quarterly tax returns. And when DIA analysts cross-referenced the corporate registration with professional licensing databases, they discovered something extraordinary. The company's registered agent was a practicing immigration attorney with an office 2 blocks from the New York Stock Exchange. His name was Eduardo Castellanos. He had operated his practice for 19 years. He specialized in asylum cases, employment-based visas, and deportation defense. He maintained an unblemished record with the New York State Bar Association. He spoke at immigrant rights conferences. He provided pro bono services to nonprofit organizations serving undocumented communities. He was also the architect of a transnational cocaine trafficking network that had moved an estimated 43,000 pounds of narcotics into the United States over a 4-year period. The double life. Federal investigators obtained surveillance warrants within 72 hours of the port seizure. They discovered Castellanos maintained 3 separate operational identities. His legal practice functioned normally during business hours, handling legitimate immigration cases for clients who paid standard attorney fees. His import-export company processed paperwork for what appeared to be automotive parts shipments from South American manufacturers. And his encrypted communication network coordinated with cartel representatives in Colombia, Panama, and Mexico to arrange logistics for cocaine shipments concealed within those automotive containers. The sophistication stunned investigators. Castellanos had exploited his legal expertise to construct a nearly impenetrable operational framework. He established shell companies in Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming using client information obtained through his immigration practice. He created false business relationships with legitimate automotive importers, piggybacking his cocaine shipments onto their established supply chains. He used attorney-client privilege to shield communications with cartel operatives who posed as potential immigration clients seeking legal representation. The financial architecture revealed equal complexity. Wire transfers moved through correspondent banking relationships in Panama, the Cayman Islands, and Switzerland. Cryptocurrency conversions obscured transaction trails. Real estate purchases in Florida, Texas, and California laundered proceeds through property transactions that appeared legitimate on surface examination. Castellanos had even established a charitable foundation supporting immigrant children, using it to further legitimize his financial profile while simultaneously laundering drug proceeds through charitable donation mechanisms. The evidence mounts. DIA agents executed coordinated search warrants on December 22, 2023. They hit Castellanos' law office, his residence in Tribeca, his vacation property in the Hamptons, and his storage facilities in Queens. What they recovered painted a portrait of systemic criminality operating behind the facade of legal respectability. From the law office, encrypted laptops containing communications with Colombian cartel representatives, shipping manifests for 17 previous cocaine shipments, financial records documenting $260 million in wire transfers, and client files that had been systematically mined for personal information used in establishing false corporate identities. From his residence, $340,000 in cash stored in a bedroom safe, multiple passports under different names, handwritten ledgers tracking cocaine shipments and distribution payments, and a collection of burner phones containing text messages coordinating delivery, schedules with distribution networks in New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and Baltimore. From the Hamptons property, an additional $800,000 in cash, title documents for 12 properties purchased with drug proceeds, and banking records for offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, holding an estimated $19 million. From the storage facilities, shipping container paperwork, customs brokerage documents with forged signatures, and boxes containing thousands of pages of financial records documenting the entire operational structure of the trafficking network. But the most damning evidence came from Castellanos' own meticulous record-keeping. He had maintained detailed spreadsheets tracking every cocaine shipment, every payment to Colombian suppliers, every distribution to American wholesalers, and every dollar laundered through his various financial mechanisms. His attorney's instinct for documentation had created a prosecutorial roadmap of his own criminal enterprise. The network exposed. As investigators analyzed the seized evidence, the full scope of Castellanos' operation emerged. He hadn't worked alone. His trafficking network extended across 3 continents and involved 47 co-conspirators occupying specific operational roles. In Colombia, cartel representatives who coordinated cocaine production and arranged shipping logistics from Buenaventura port. These operatives maintained relationships with corrupt customs officials who facilitated container passage through export screening procedures. In Panama, logistics coordinators who managed transshipment operations, transferring cocaine from Colombian vessels to containers bound for American ports, while updating shipping documentation to reflect Caribbean origins rather than Colombian sources. In the United States, a network of corrupt customs brokers, port employees, and trucking company operators who facilitated container movement through inspection procedures and arranged ground transportation to distribution points in New York and surrounding states. The distribution network itself operated with corporate efficiency. Castellanos had recruited warehouse operators in industrial districts of Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. These facilities received containers directly from port terminals. Workers unloaded cocaine packages concealed within automotive parts shipments. Distribution occurred within 48 hours of container arrival, with cocaine moving to wholesalers who supplied street-level dealers throughout the Northeast Corridor. Payment flowed in reverse through the same channels. Cash collected from wholesalers moved to Castellanos' money laundering operations. Wire transfers returned to Colombian suppliers. Profits accumulated in offshore accounts. The cycle repeated every 3 to 4 weeks, with each successful shipment generating between $8 and $12 million in gross revenue. The takedown. Federal prosecutors convened a grand jury in January 2024. The indictment, unsealed on February 8, 2024, charged Castellanos and 32 co-conspirators with conspiracy to distribute cocaine, conspiracy to import cocaine, money laundering, wire fraud, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. The arrests occurred simultaneously across 8 states. Castellanos was taken into custody at his law office at 6:15 a.m. Agents arrested his primary logistics coordinator at a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. They apprehended his money laundering specialist at a restaurant in Coral Gables, Florida. They arrested customs brokers at the Port of Newark, truck drivers in New Jersey rest stops, and warehouse operators at their residences across New York City. In Colombia, coordinated operations by Colombian National Police resulted in the arrest of 7 cartel representatives who had supplied cocaine for Castellanos' shipments. Panamanian authorities arrested 4 logistics coordinators operating transshipment facilities in the Colne Free Trade Zone. The press conference convened that afternoon at DIA headquarters in Manhattan. The special agent in charge stood before tables displaying seized evidence, bricks of cocaine wrapped in plastic, stacks of cash bound with rubber bands, firearms recovered from warehouse locations, and printed exhibits showing the organizational structure of Castellanos' trafficking network. This investigation has dismantled one of the most sophisticated cocaine trafficking operations in United States history, the special agent stated. The defendant exploited his position as an attorney, his knowledge of international commerce, and his access to vulnerable immigrant communities to construct a criminal enterprise that generated over $400 million in drug proceeds while flooding American streets with thousands of pounds of cocaine. The U.S. attorney emphasized the betrayal. Eduardo Castellanos took an oath to uphold the law. Instead, he weaponized his legal expertise to traffic narcotics, launder money, and corrupt the very institutions designed to protect public safety. He exploited clients who trusted him with their immigration cases, mining their personal information to create false identities for his criminal operations. This represents an unconscionable violation of professional ethics and public trust. The reckoning. Castellanos' trial began in September 2024. Federal prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence across 6 weeks of testimony. DEA agents described the investigation's progression from initial container seizure through the unraveling of the entire trafficking network. Forensic accountants detailed the money laundering schemes that had moved $260 million through international banking systems. Cooperating witnesses testified about Castellanos' direct involvement in coordinating cocaine shipments and distribution operations. The defense attempted to argue that Castellanos had been coerced by cartel representatives who had threatened his family. The prosecution countered with evidence showing Castellanos had initiated contact with Colombian suppliers, had voluntarily constructed the trafficking infrastructure, and had accumulated millions in personal wealth from drug proceeds. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Guilty on all counts. On December 3, 2024, the federal judge sentenced Castellanos to 45 years in federal prison. The sentence reflected the scale of his operation, the sophistication of his criminal enterprise, and the profound betrayal of his professional obligations. The judge noted that Castellanos had corrupted the noble profession of law to serve the most destructive elements of international organized crime. 31 co-conspirators accepted plea agreements. Sentences ranged from 5 to 25 years depending on their roles within the organization. Asset forfeiture proceedings seized properties worth an estimated $37 million. The DEA recovered $19 million from offshore accounts. Colombian and Panamanian governments seized properties and assets belonging to cartel representatives and logistics coordinators arrested in their jurisdictions. The aftermath. The Castellanos case forced uncomfortable conversations within legal and immigration advocacy communities. How had an attorney operating in plain sight constructed such a sophisticated criminal enterprise without detection? What systemic vulnerabilities had allowed him to exploit his professional credentials for 4 years before discovery? How many clients had been victimized through the unauthorized use of their personal information in criminal schemes? The New York State Bar Association initiated disciplinary proceedings that resulted in Castellanos' permanent disbarment. Professional liability insurance carriers faced claims from former immigration clients whose cases had been compromised by Castellanos' criminal activities and subsequent incarceration. Immigration advocacy organizations grappled with the implications. Many had worked with Castellanos, referring clients to his practice and partnering on community legal clinics. The revelation that these professional relationships had provided cover for criminal operations created crisis of institutional confidence within immigrant rights networks. Federal authorities emphasized that the investigation had exposed systemic vulnerabilities requiring immediate attention. The exploitation of legitimate business relationships in international shipping demanded enhanced screening protocols for import-export companies. The use of professional credentials to shield criminal communications necessitated closer scrutiny of attorney-client relationships in contexts involving international commerce and financial transactions. But perhaps most troubling was the recognition that Castellanos' operation represented not an isolated incident, but a template that sophisticated criminals could replicate. The combination of legal expertise, international business knowledge, and access to vulnerable communities created opportunities for exploitation that existing regulatory frameworks struggled to detect or prevent. The warning. The 8,900 pounds of cocaine seized from container MSQ 4429817 represented a fraction of the narcotics Castellanos had successfully imported during his 4-year operation. Federal investigators estimated that approximately 34,000 pounds had reached distribution networks before the December 2023 seizure disrupted his trafficking pipeline. That cocaine contributed to overdose deaths across the Northeast. It fueled addiction crises in communities already devastated by the opioid epidemic. It generated violence as distribution networks competed for market control. And it enriched a criminal enterprise operated by a man who had sworn an oath to uphold the law and serve the vulnerable populations who sought his professional assistance. The Castellanos case stands as a stark reminder that sophisticated criminal enterprises can hide behind legitimate professional credentials, that trust creates vulnerability, and that the corruption of institutional authority represents a unique threat to public safety. His 45-year sentence reflects not just the quantity of cocaine trafficked or the magnitude of money laundered, but the profound violation of professional ethics that enabled his criminal success. How many others occupy similar positions, exploiting professional credentials to facilitate organized crime while maintaining facades of respectability? What systemic reforms might detect such operations before they move thousands of pounds of narcotics and generate hundreds of millions in drug proceeds? These questions demand answers, because the alternative is accepting that trusted professionals can weaponize their expertise against the communities they claim to serve. The container has been seized, the attorney is imprisoned, the network has been dismantled, but the vulnerability remains.